opposition even more, because obviously they'll never get to set you straight. Legion protected by bullets, the remorseless, the good boy, even if it's hell. Bark and the bite and the bang blade, that's good times rhyme with war crimes. The bark and the bite and the bang blade, good times rhyme with war crimes.
War Pugs. Hey guys, how's it going? It is time. It is high time. It has been a long time, and we're here. Guys, a record low number of you guys. A record low number. Only 30 of you let me know that fan uploaded. Only 30 of you. Only 30 about this. Yes, Prophet. Thank you. Thank you so much, Prophet. I appreciate that. Fan did upload. Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you. I appreciate it. Fan uploaded. Caden, my day has been decent. I will say that. I'm actually taking a little bit of time for myself. I've been taking a little bit of time for myself and just kind of sitting back and breathing, okay? Just breathing a little bit, to be honest with you. It's something I haven't done in a bit. I've been considering going fishing, things of that nature, but at this point, this week, a bunch of things happened at the same time that I have been waiting for. Number one, All Guardsman Party continued. We started on that yesterday. Then fan uploads. Somebody better pick up that phone because I called it Dragon of Dragon. Yes, there we go. Galaxy, did you know fan uploaded? Yes, I know. I have been made aware of the fact that fan uploaded. But fan uploaded. All Guardsman Party has continued. There's been another oh God, my guys, it has been a week for me finding out that some of the series that I have really, really enjoyed. Yes, Galaxy White, I got your series. I got your message. A lot of the series that I really have enjoyed have continued. And all about the same time too. It's like everybody got back into it at about the same time, which is awesome. Stop it, Prophet. Stop it. But my God, guys, the last time we were all gathered together, I wasn't in this room. I wasn't in this house. And I was just ready. Like, I was just so there. Avalon's uploading too. Yes, imagine if TTS comes back. Avalon's here. And Norfolk Wizard game as well. So it has been such an awesome series of things to come out one after another. It has been so cool. I am so happy. Hey, Fard, as you watch fans' videos and learn more about Star Wars, you still think that Star Wars will get stomped by 40K? Yes. Yes, I do. And as I have stated repeatedly in the past, it is a matter of when and where and how. But that's, I mean, given a scenario, like any kind of scenario, you know, it is something that I would look into several times. Prophet, you know what's hilarious? I set an alarm for fan stream last night and slept through the alarm. The army has you beat. That's what the army does to you, my guy. I am so happy about this kind of stuff. You were looking that the American destroyed the pirates and found the U.S. Day. I don't think I missed that one, Buck. I really don't. But there's been so many great things that have come out in the past couple of weeks, and we're going to be here for all of them. It is excellent. It is excellent, excellent, excellent. I am so happy to be here with this one. Guys, Star Wars versus Warhammer 40K, episode 47. We are here. We are back here together with this one. Warpugs, X in chat if you're ready to go. The last time we left off, everybody was doing the cool guys don't look at explosions walk. I had finished dying laughing because, the Star Wars fleet overhead was having a bad day. It's time to continue this. Let's go. Warpugs, I hope Fan pops in. It'd be nice to see him again. Let's get into it. Let's go, man. Let's go. Ronnie, I'm trying to get to that this weekend, bud. Real quick, just something based off what Ronnie said. Over the past 2 days, the past day and a half, I've actually given myself some time off. I got really ahead in recording, so I gave myself a little bit of time off. So if you're like Ronnie, wondering why I haven't gotten to a certain thing, because I've told people I'm going to be getting to certain things relatively quickly. I've given myself 2 days off, which is utterly insane for me. Besides from live streams, 2 days where I haven't done anything, which has been amazing. Let's go. Part 1. Not yet, Declan. I know, Ronnie.
Smears of ash and lost life drifted through the war-torn streets of Axum. Hazy phantoms of rampant death drifting on the dying heat of molten metal and cooling corpses. Beneath them labored the still-living phantoms of the Republic, each bearing the face of a man now years dead, covered by the pale scowl of alien design. And beholding it all were blue eyes, searching the smoky ghosts of battle, seeking the sign of her counterpart's approach. Yet, time and time again, against the sullied silver walls and shattered blue glass of the smoldering spires, the only forms Ahsoka's eyes could find were those of the dead and the silent.
Okay.
Those who could not be helped, nor lend help any longer. Those of the lost. The glimpse of so many drove spikes into her, but they were not unfamiliar spikes. The Confederacy had massacred civilian populations, had corralled desperate separatists into suicidal charges for the sake of an advantage in battle. Grievous was no less a warlord than any of these Imperials. And yet, there had just been a magnitude to all of this that put what had come before to shame. This one battle felt like an entire week-long siege, and the sheer number of corpses was a slowly festering testament to that. The clones, to their credit, had made a token attempt to recover the dead beforehand, so as to not taint the meeting ground overmuch. But the task was one which would require a distinctly dedicated effort, and that kind of effort would need to wait.
Did they literally clear out the bodies trying to make it, a more diplomatic setting for people from 40K? Because you don't really need to do that.
All the while, Ahsoka watched on, arms crossed, as the rest of the Republic delegation reached the meeting point.
Tybalt, you want to do a quick recap? Okay, so, 2 to be perfectly, just to really sum up things, okay, into a nice tight ball. A fleet leaving Cadia, a Imperium battle fleet leaving Cadia. Hey, Zinch, what's up, bud? Was pulled into, while it was transiting the warp, was pulled into another galaxy that is the Star Wars galaxy. This fleet transitioned at the height of the Clone Wars, when Grievous was still around and kicking. Palpatine has been ascended to the role of Chancellor. He is pretty much an absolute dictator at this point. Everything like that. Now, this is pre-Order 66, and the entire time, while the Jedi were, to be just perfectly blunt, the Star Wars galaxy did everything wrong in the first encounter. Zectech sector, sorry. They were evacuating the Zectech sector, sorry. My fault, my bad, my brain. The representatives of the Star Wars galaxy did everything wrong from the outset. They did everything wrong from the outset. From thinking that the Imperials are going to be reasonable, and on top of that, from basically first contact. The first contact between the two was about as horrible as you could possibly get. Okay. Palpatine caused an issue where a ship was fired on. The Imperium ship was fired. An Imperium civilian ship was fired on, I believe, troop transport, and that troop transport went the way of a Nova. Ever since then, it has been a one thing after another, leading to a battle on a planet called Axiom, which has been the bulk of things that have been happening in this story for the past little bit. Yeah, the Imperium is not reasonable. The Imperium is trying to take the planet as of this moment. The Jedi sent a very large contingent to try to stop them. Palpatine did do a little trolling profit, but the main story so far has been involved around this battle of Axiom. There has been the Republic didn't really mess around here, Buck. They didn't. They did not mess around, okay? The war is a lot worse than anything the Star Wars galaxy has seen up to this point, just in sheer brutality, because that's what the Imperium is. Windu is big mad, yes. The major thing that people were worried about, Hobbit, because Prophet does my scheduling, and I don't know. Oh god, I'm trying to organize my thoughts here. But the Jedi engaged the Imperium. They were subsequently engaged by the Imperium. The clones have been a very competent force to fight against the Imperial Guard. But the fighting has been extremely brutal. Big thing to note here is the way the Force and the Warp work. The way that Fan explained this is that the Force and the Warp are kind of intertwined. They just are used differently by the Jedi and the Psychers of 40K. That was his major caveat for that. Now, there's a bunch of major characters. The Weiler brothers. You have everybody's favorite Eversor waifu. You have 1313, who is the boy. You have his Cadian girlfriend. A bunch of Sisters of Battle. Exactly, galaxy-wide. And as of this point, there's a Gene Stealer hiding somewhere. Yes, Tony. As of this point, the clone commanders and the clone troopers have pushed the Imperium back to a single fortress on the planet. And they have the upper hand. Problem, they don't nearly as much as they think they do. Because the Imperium is very much ready to blow this whole thing up. the Jedi have lost a massive amount of Jedi fighting against Space Marines, which has not gone well for them. Anakin is somehow with Iskandar. He's with Iskandar. Somebody tell me how that happened. Somebody tell me how that happened. It's actually terrifying. But Iskandar thinks that Anakin is the ever-chosen of chaos, more so than Abaddon the Harmless. So that is the sad and pathetic recap I had without making any notes. Yes, Caiaphas Cain is here, and a Custodian is here. And the Gene Stealer does want to do Snoo. Yep, Howard, it is time. All right, let's get back into it.
The young former Jedi could not help but
Thank you, Howard.
instinctively extend her senses.
I really
to the Force,
appreciate it, man.
Feeling the anxiety within the approaching prisoners they were hurting, as well as the tension and barely constrained anger boiling inside of the clones who guarded over them. Even the approach of the Imperial delegation was noticed, brushing against her frayed senses. They were close.
The Tyranids have the Star Wars Galaxy's numbers.
Ahsoka feeling that one of their
Dragon, I do not doubt that. I really don't.
own was extending their senses back in her direction, doing much the same as she was. There was something mildly familiar in the presence, but she dared not entangle herself too closely with it, knowing well how dangerous Imperial Force wielders were from the reports the clones had delivered. Besides, every second counted, and Ahsoka intended to use the time wisely.
Oh, and if you're wondering if we're dealing with EU Legends Palpatine versus movie Palpatine, we are most definitely in EU Legends Palpatine's territory.
Moving her mind's projection past the extending arm of the other presence, and back toward the rest of the delegation, trying to feel if they... She winced and recoiled as something cold and violent slapped against her mind.
Ah, yeah, by the way, just going to say it. There's an insane Inquisitor named Tarweiler, and he has a daemon host, and he let it loose on the planet, and it still hasn't made its grand entrance yet.
Like a strict teacher's ruler slapping over the exposed hand of a disobedient pupil. It was like being slapped with a solid, frozen bar of steel, and on top of that, one that was screaming, "Through me!" She managed to make out as she recovered, pulling her presence back from whatever defense they had around them. Clearly, they were quite interested in maintaining their subtle privacy. And Ahsoka, rubbing her head, huffed in frustration. Turning her thoughts back to what she might do, she looked around for the former captain, but now Commander Rex, raising her arm to signal him before staggering again, suddenly sensing something which swept over her preternatural senses like an ice-cold explosion. Her bones quaked inside her, flesh shuddering to follow, her breath exhaling, yet finding her voice caught in her throat. She could hear the clash of mighty waves careening against the fervor of erupting.
I, of course, forgot to mention Commissar Shadrick, Prophet's favorite character, who, he's gonna die, and we don't care. We just don't. He's a prick.
Mountains, a distant but keening cacophony.
Yes, Alpha Plus.
The force that struck a sense within her, fear and alarm, buzzing like wasps kicked from a nest. Something was happening. A collision of forces, or the revelation of a
Why
new
is there laughing in the background?
Something so sharp and rising that it ate all of Tano's attention until the moment that it was pulled back by something else.
Commander?
Rex asked, noticing how she had frozen up, able to see that something had affected the former Padawan and tensing himself in response, looking around as he drew his pistols. Ahsoka shook her head, Leku flailing across her shoulders lightly.
Confused, you have a nice night, bud. You have a good nice night.
She tried to focus on what this was, but despite how incredibly intense it felt, it only made it clearer that it was many, many miles away, far within the reaches of a different section of the city, To address it, whatever it was, would mean attention and resources she could not spare, not right now. She set her jaw and drew in a deep breath.
It's nothing, Rex, nothing.
She said quickly, looking off into the distant direction of the
Don't
power
start
she
that,
felt.
Joe.
Turning back, she blushed lightly when
Alpha
Rex's
plus
body
high
language
power,
instantly
yes.
conveyed his evident disbelief.
Ahsoka.
Rex began to say, the young woman waving him off before he could continue.
Not nothing, Rex, but nothing to do with us right now. It might actually be a very big something, but it's not something nearby, so please, put the prisoners over there, up against the wall.
She directed, pointing to her left.
And make sure Nerva Sharp, the droid woman in the back tank, is near the front.
Commander Rex said nothing, eyeing her through his helmet before shallowly bowing his head in acknowledgement and turning to relay the orders to the other clones. The Imperial POWs were moved into position without resistance, their hands on their heads as they marched in a line, their eyes hollow and devoid of hope. Seeking some insight and to reorient herself on the mission at hand, Ahsoka probed their emotions with the Force, moving more deeply than she had before, and, within them, felt something that sent a cold shock running through her. Only despair. The Togrutan teenager was once again made to grow beyond her years as she faced the realization that these men and women had resigned themselves entirely to death and fully expected far worse. They had no expectation that whatever was about to happen might result in their actual release. They had no hope save for that of escape or liberation, violent liberation.
Yeah, so, a little bit more, Ahsoka's the only one using her fucking brain on the Republic side right now for anything other than shooting people and stabbing people with lightsabers. And, oh man, Ahsoka is doing her best to stop the violence. Like, Kenobi is, yeah, so, but, until Windu. But, oh my god, it is just not a good sign that the kid, yeah, she's trying to stop this madness. It's not going that well, but still.
They were grim.
Yeah, Ahsoka is kind of
locked.
based.
Within them existed no conception of victory through anything less than war. Total war. Only war. She clenched her fists, fighting back the surge of hot frustration which bloomed in her chest. The heat of her sudden anger attempted to counteract the ice which was seeping up from the veins in her feet. Born of germinating horror and shock, as well as more than a little disappointment. They acted like they came from a galaxy without any regard for POWs at all.
Yeah, that's pretty much
That
it.
thought immediately had Ahsoka internally recoiling, but from her own hypocrisy. As she remembered General Grievous's treatment of prisoners of war, especially Jedi. The realization was a bitter pill to swallow, especially here and now.
Maybe we aren't so far behind them after all.
Eh.
She muttered to herself as a team of clones moved past her and
Especially considering the three people on the screen right now, with the exception of the clone trooper, responsible for more war crimes than I care to count.
hurriedly began to set up a large meeting table, placing and anchoring it down to the ground.
Ahsoka's waving so many death flags. How much? Yeah, dragon a dragon. You're not kidding. Thank you, bud.
Tall leg with a projector at the top.
Thank you, Giselle. You should check out High from Destiny.
Natural human.
I'll consider it,
Once
Giselle.
set
I
and
appreciate that.
activated, the four tall repulsor generators projected a protective blue canopy over their heads, and though it was not powerful enough to do more than slow down anything like a falling body, Ahsoka still figured it would be of use when she considered the distant thunder rumbling ominously, coming closer and closer. After all, she did not predict that any of them would be keen on negotiating in the rain. The young warrior turned her head then, spotting Obi-Wan.
It's not raining blood. There's no nuclear fire. There's no, other massive disasters. you're not all green, you're not made out of metal. I think they'll be fine negotiating with you, whatever the circumstances are.
One speaking with a couple of clones not too distant from her, rubbing her chin and turning her head back towards the source of that disturbance in the Force. She angled towards her former master's former master and began to walk towards him, waving as she came in close. Seeing her approach, he wrapped up what he was saying and dismissed the clones with a nod of his head, the men saluting and running off at a hasty trot. The Jedi Master now turning to face Ahsoka.
Did you feel that?
She asked in a whisper, bright blue eyes alighting with the distant lightning. Obi-Wan nodded his head, stroking his beard ponderously with one bandaged hand.
I did. I've already sent orders addressing it.
He answered, eyes shimmering lightly with the far-off flashes born in the storm.
Addressing what? Do you know what it is?
Ahsoka asked back more urgently.
I don't know yet. However, I have my suspicions. And the direction I am sensing this from. It is the same general direction that Master Windu and I sent Ayla in order to help gather up the other Jedi. I don't know if she's involved or not, but...
He began to explain.
Howard, she's hearing Thunderstruck by ACD and Raiding Blood By Slayer in the distance. Ayla is, Ayla's considering she might have the wrong teachers in mind probably right now. I'm just saying. Ayla is having a bad time. This is very true.
But it's better to be safe.
The former Jedi interjected with a nod, seeing Obi-Wan nod back before continuing.
Good. Then we can focus on just this meeting until it's over.
The ex-Padawan said with a sigh, shaking her head lightly. Obi-Wan nodded, his eyes sliding from the distance to her, his forehead creasing somewhat.
Ahsoka.
He began to say, picking his words carefully.
This may not work the way you think it will.
The Master continued.
And the alternative is what, my guy? The alternative at this point is what? Because I don't know if you've been noticing, but you're getting your ass whipped.
Continued before she interjected again.
Yeah,
Trust in the Force.
Ayla's
She said
the opposite
quickly,
of safe
walking
right now.
away as she did and heading towards the meeting table. She tried to project confidence, maybe even overconfidence, but as Obi-Wan's keen eyes followed her, Ahsoka knew just how hollow her words would sound. Yet, even in the face of that, she firmed her lips.
Thank you, Howard.
Resolve. There was a chance here, hope, even if only a glimmer of it. She would not fail it by doing anything less than the most that she could do, give the most that she could give. Ahsoka's eyes narrowed, her teeth gritting tightly behind her pursed lips. She drove off the tension she felt encroaching on her with a deep, steadying breath. Then she turned herself to the intrusive thoughts of the Greater Republic, of Anakin, and Master Windu, the storm, and the strange sense. She drove them all away with her next breath, focusing entirely on the diplomatic battle that was now presented before her. She knew that if she failed, no one would die, not right away, but if she could win, then there was a chance no one else would have to die at all. Ahsoka may not have been...
At least she's trying. I mean, she might be barking up the wrong tree here, but at least she's giving it a shot, which is better than anybody else has.
A Jedi any longer, but she knew no other way of life. She was a soldier, a warrior, but more than that, she was a peacekeeper, a warrior who warred for harmony. All previous battles had been fights to stave off defeat or to inch towards a tactical win. But now the battle which was about to be waged could win her victory, not tactical, practical, or temporary victory, but what she would consider to be true victory. At the touch of those thoughts, Ahsoka cringed, feeling a twinge of pain in her head as she remembered the priest and his martyred men, as she remembered the look on his face when she begged him to surrender. She remembered Farnes's declaration, his fear, which had rapidly soured into hatred. and she remembered the bombardment of feeling and sensation she had been assaulted with during her time in orbit, the sound of billions upon billions of voices crying out in sudden terror, and then being silenced all at once.
True victory.
Did she feel the fact that the one of the chapters of Space Marines went out and got themselves some nom-noms?
Muttered to herself.
Even if only on this one planet.
The former Jedi finished, a dark voice reminding the rest of the light which
Howard,
composed
stop
her
it.
that this war was far from over.
Uh-oh.
CGG-1, this is CGG-4, clearance code star 5 beta beta, over.
Larkin said through his headpiece. There was a pause, static crackling over his thick headset.
Copy CGG-4. Confirmation acquired and accepted. Please proceed. Over.
Responded the operator on the other Golan defense platform.
We've detected another small group of spatial anomalies approaching from Sector T.
Larkin said, his voice straight, professional, hardly bored.
Oh,
We are
no.
requesting a follow-up scan and pinpoint from your platform. Can you comply? Over.
Larkin continued, hands moving across the keys of his station, large screen before him indicating that the records of their own scan of Sector T was being forwarded to them. Another pause then, but not as long.
Copy that, CGG-4. Stand by for our secondary scan. Over.
The other operator responded.
Copy. Standing by. Over.
Larkin sent before deactivating the mic on his headset and leaning back in his chair, sighing heavily.
Double shifting it, eh, Lark?
Quipped Denora, smiling down at him in his control alcove as she walked across what passed for a command bridge on their defensive station.
Oh,
Larkin
God.
scoffed and reached up, taking the hot foam cup of fresh calf she kneeled down to hand to him. She smiled brightly down at him, and he felt a warm flush on his face. The job didn't have many perks, but he couldn't complain about getting to be around a charming blue tailhead.
More like quadruple shifting.
He said as he brought the cup down to his mouth, popping open the top and blowing over the surface of the hot, chocolate-colored calf.
Stray rods from that massive fleet jump keep wandering into the mid-rings and solar system. And we've got way too much stuff floating around to just let them go untagged or undusted.
Larkin continued to vent before taking a slow sip of his drink. Denora handed another.
Have you ever seen something horrible about to happen and just wish you could yell out and be like, wait, or pay attention, or anything? Yeah, here we go. Howard, no kidding. Thank you, Howard.
Phone
my
cup to
God.
Jekar, the Duros man sitting 2 seats down from Larkin within the same alcove.
Is it non-dilithiate?
Jekar asked as he lowered his headset and reached up.
And with extra wabasap.
Denora
Yay!
replied, nodding as she did.
Near a treasure.
The Duros buzzed, taking the calf and prying open the top eagerly.
So what's with all the extra work?
The blue Twi'lek asked of no one in particular as she stood again and began to walk over to the next sunken alcove.
It's not because of all of us, is it?
She asked a moment later, and though she was out of sight, Larkin had no trouble at all imagining the distressed expression on her hairless blue features.
No!
He set out from his alcove.
It's got nothing to do with the refugees.
Another man, Sorsko, said from the next alcove over. Larkin could only hear
Diclonius, Omega got her visit from tech support, okay?
Denora's sigh of relief and chose to go on.
It's that massive departure. Nearly the entire Republic fleet leaving all at once caused some major disturbances in mid and outer system debris.
He explained.
Asteroids, meteors, old wrecks that were in previously stable orbits. A lot of it has drifted out of alignment.
Oh,
It's our job
no.
to keep not just Coruscant safe with our guns and armor, but also to keep as much of the system's infrastructure safe as well.
They don't have a fleet there to protect them. This is worse than I thought.
Using our deep-range scanners. Anything that might swing in and one day hit something has to be tracked, logged, and intercepted before it has a chance to.
Above him and out of sight, Denora stood from another delivery, folding the tray she had been using against her uniform and nodding her head.
Oh, so all the extra work is coming from all the junk the leaving fleets left behind.
There's going to be a lot more
She
junk
surmised.
in the... Yeah.
Close enough.
Jekar hummed.
What do you mean?
Denora asked, prompting a heavy sigh from the man.
Well, it's not just supposed to be us. I'm looking at a whole shower of SA-9s falling into a trajectory with the capital itself, and from the sound of it, we were the first ones to call it in.
He grunted, indicating towards his screen for the benefit of no one in particular.
Why is that bad? What's an SA-9?
Denora followed up nervously.
Spatial anomalies of Category 9, unknown inert objects.
Another crewmate provided.
And it's bad because...
Larkin began to explain.
CGG-2 should have caught this an hour before us, at least. To say nothing of one of the other out platforms. And these stick out like sore thumbs, aside from the fact that they'd be dangerously close to colliding with Coruscant in 6 or so months.
He went on, his voice lined with exasperation.
Irregular shapes, high-density cores, extrasolar trajectories...
The technical officer said, listing off what he could notice from the scans his own station had already taken.
Who's going to tell them how fucked they are? Anybody? X in chat if you would like to tell them how fucked they are, okay? Dragon, this is going to be good. Oh, God, dude. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for the super chats. I really do appreciate it. How the imps are going to interact with Yoda? Slap a grot. There you go. Oh, God.
And processed. He trailed off, the air going still and silent as he, as well as all of those who were listening, grew more and more alarmed with the descriptions.
Larkin, have you run that by a secondary scan yet?
Praersons asked from her alcove, voice audible through the air but repeating from a speaker built into the side of his station. He sat up straight, sliding his calf into a holder as he leaned forward into his station, pressing the comm response key.
Yes, copy that. It was the first thing I did, and I'm still waiting for CGG-1 to get back to me with it.
Okay.
He reported, eyes scanning his monitor as he narrowed the sensors down on the swarm of objects.
How long ago was that?
Jekar asked, leaning out from his own nearby station to voice the words more subtly to Larkin. For his part, Larkin did not answer, instead sliding his headset back up and activating a link between the two Golan defense platforms.
Their luck ran out, Howard. Their luck has ran completely out. Thank you, bud.
Once more.
CGG-1, this is CGG-4.
Ronnie.
Clearance code star 5 beta beta. Over.
He said again. There was static, a faint buzzing, followed by nothing more. And with every growing moment, a pit was opening in Larkin's stomach.
CGG-1, this is CGG-4, attempting to re-establish communication. Over.
He sent, leaning forward even more, as if his proximity to the screen would enable him to hear something, anything. Everyone seemed to
Did somebody pay the cell phone bill or something?
Stop and listen, until, after several seconds of silence, a voice broke it.
Larkin.
Praersons radioed from her alcove.
Confirm whether or not we have an incoming or outgoing comm lapse.
She said calmly through the speaker.
Copy that.
He responded quickly, flipping a few switches before pressing down the comm button again.
Low control. This is CGG-4. Clearance code star 5 beta beta. Over.
He sent.
Copy that, CGG-4. This is low control. How can we help you? Over.
Was the...
We need about 10,000 bottles of lube because we're so fucked it's crazy.
Prompt response, sending streaks of ice.
That's what he needs to say right now.
Praerson, outgoing comm lapse confirmed on CGG-1.
He quickly reported.
Right.
Praerson said, her voice clipped and professional.
Activate yellow alert and call the overseer to the bridge.
The delegations.
Obi-Wan moved to position himself slightly in front of Ahsoka and to her right, both of them converging on the setup table. His positioning helped to wordlessly assert his rank among the Republic delegation, not to Ahsoka.
Shut up and get behind Ahsoka. What have you done?
Ahsoka, of course, but to their guests. Jocastanu's pale, willowy form glided beside him and to his own right, her expression terse yet calm, bringing with her a sense of serene rigidity, both mysterious and solid to the Imperial onlookers. Unfortunately, the red spatter across her white robes did dampen the effect somewhat. Behind the three Force wielders was Sergeant Barlex, rifle at the ready as he took up the rear guard. Ahsoka couldn't help but flick her eye.
Howard even did it. Oh, not gonna be enough. It's true. It's true. Thank you, Howard.
Eyes to him as he passed her, noticing something unusual in his posture, but had no time to investigate or even really think about it, trusting that if anything was of serious issue, he would bring it forward himself. Her eyes, unable to track Barlex as he moved behind her, were instead directed forward, towards where Sergeant Shatterlong and Commander Rex stood vigilantly.
Judging by the way that the Republic has handled every single diplomatic meeting that Ahsoka has engineered, they're going to invite the Space Marines down into the Jedi Temple and be like, these are children with special gifts, and look what we're training them to do. And the Space Marines are going to be like,
their eyes scanning the perimeter from the two repulsor emitters on the Republic's side of the table. She balled up her fist and issued two small coughs into it, her throat burning slightly thanks to all of the smoke in the air around them, the acrid scent of burning debris tainting the flavor in her mouth. Various levels of the city were on fire, and, aside from the automated systems, very few civilians were being deployed to deal with it, if any at all. Most of those normal people who remained were either moving away from the site of the battle or forming into militias to join it. The Republic settled in, and Ahsoka and the others waited and listened, their activity and speech dwindling down until all that remained was the whistling silence of the smoldering city, which was punctuated only occasionally by the beep of a probe droid, audible over the dull, constant crackle of faraway fires. Then, with a mechanical hum and warble, something new arrived, its ghastly, skeletal features emerging from a curtain of smoke and ash which drifted in the nearer distance. An Imperial skull droid entered her view, its hollow eye sockets glowing with an eerie set of lights, coloring the smoke green and red as it progressed. The strange Imperial machine hovered for a moment, lensed eyes tilting in orientation towards each of the Republic personnel in turn, before moving forward on invisible tethers. Ahsoka held her breath, keeping a composed face as more skull probes breached through the haze after the first, buzzing around like macabre bees, each one expressing an unsettling, if silent, curiosity. The clones went to raise their weapons defensively, but were prevented by Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, who raised their hands to forestall the actions of the troopers.
But
the young former
they keep
Jedi's
up like
heart
this.
pounded in her chest as the imp droids buzzed about, keeping their distance as they did, before returning to the center of the approach, hovering in an arc-like pattern before the smoke. And then the Imperial delegation emerged from the burnt miasma behind them, walking beneath the arc of skull droids, which were pulled along as the imps passed beneath. Despite Ahsoka's disdain of their previous displays of war-slicked madness, the young warrior was forced to admit to herself that the approaching Imperials were an imposing sight indeed. They marched forward with a cadence which betrayed no weakness, expressions set into a variety spanning determination, focus, rage, and even uncaring nonchalance. The state and condition of their armors and weapons betrayed the true toll of the long battle, yet suggested little flaw in their resolve. The Imperial delegation moved forward in a wedge-like formation, tipped by a man masked with a terrible, glittering skull. Ahsoka's eyes narrowed, not as if suspicious, but as if she were staring into the sun. She found it hard to stare directly at him, feeling a subtle ache in her skull growing stronger the closer he came. She had no doubt that Obi-Wan and Jocasta could feel it as well,
13 Liz,
even
boys.
as her former master's master stepped forward and raised his hand in their direction.
That's close enough, I think.
He called to them, voice even but loud. The encroaching group paused for a moment, the armored woman standing behind the skull-faced man leaning forward and saying something into his ear. With her face turned, Ahsoka could not read her lips nor make out the words. The effect, however, was clear. He and the woman dressed in powered armor stepped forward, the former hefting a banner high over his head as he did, coming halfway between his delegation and where Master Kenobi stood. Ahsoka tried to read his expression, to sense his emotions, but the mask impaired or outright blocked her attempts. However, when she glanced over at Obi-Wan, she could see plainly that the Jedi Master recognized this Imperial leader and more.
Will you be conducting these talks?
The imp asked, standing close enough that he could be heard in the tense silence without raising his voice. Ahsoka could almost hear the grip tighten around the weapons held by the clones, could feel their desire to raise those rifles just as surely as she could see a similar desire written upon the severe face of the woman who stood behind the Imperial skull-faced leader.
I believe we've already met once,
was the Jedi General's easy reply.
So, Jack, you've been at, let's see, what would the Imperial fleet do if they got dropped in front of the Forerunners? Would they negotiate? If they found out they were human, dude, I don't think they would fight, to be honest with you.
But I don't think we exchanged names at the time.
If they did fight, they'd get wiped out.
I am a Jedi Master of the Galactic Republic. My name is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Ahsoka's
General Kenobi
introduced himself.
And though this might make your current High Command nervous, I am serving as the voice of our local deployed forces in these talks.
Obi-Wan finished with a shallow bow, a faint smile on his lips. The skull-masked man remained silent, a palpable, humorless air emanating from him and suffocating the attempt at levity. The man seemed almost as likely to leap upon Obi-Wan and attempt to impale him on his flagpole as he did to simply stare him down. When Obi-Wan opened his mouth to speak again, the Imperial cut him off.
We are here under your request.
The man stated flatly, almost harshly.
In order to discuss the exchange of prisoners, and little else.
He finished, voice as hard and cold as stone itself, particularly as he emphasized the last 3 words. A tense silence followed, in which the faint smile on Obi-Wan's lips dried up like water on the sands of Tatooine.
Of course,
he replied, voice more stiff.
Then we had better get started then. General, I assume? Forgive me, you're only the second or third skull-faced adversary
Obi-Wan began to go on, smoothing his tone only to be interrupted.
I am called Saint Lazarus, and I am here for many reasons.
The Imperial interjected, frigid voice like the steel of a knife.
And none of them include exchanging pointless pleasantries with a witch I nearly killed in battle. And
hello there.
That nearly killed me.
The man concluded, taking one step closer and bringing with that step a desire for violence so great it made both Jocasta and Ahsoka thumb their lightsabers at their sides. Obi-Wan, however, did not shrink back, did not even flinch or alter his posture, meeting the Imperial's eyes evenly, unfearing. Ahsoka could feel the pressure coming off that skull-like mask and knew it must be worse for Obi-Wan, who was right in front of it. For her, it was hard to imagine remaining so composed with the thing right in her face like it was for him. But regardless, Kenobi did not surrender a thing, not even a sign of discomfort. The silence that followed did not actually last very long, but the adrenaline prompted by the moment made it seem far lengthier than it actually was to everyone present. Well, almost everyone. The tense air was suddenly stirred by the introduction of a new noise.
Yay!
A crunching sound interrupted their stare down, the sound not unlike that of a small glass ball being broken up within a wet leather bag. Ahsoka frowned, following the noise as eyes from both sides turned to do the same, her hand instinctively dropping to the lightsaber at her waist. The sound was swiftly revealed to be coming from a woman on the Imperial side, short and of slender figure, with sunken eyes and a sickly pale pallor which were at obvious odds with the easy grin she wore on her face. The Imperial smiled as she chewed through something in her mouth.
Hecate.
A brittle lollipop, Ahsoka realized.
Hecate.
The woman seemed not to notice for a second, as all eyes turned to her before she twitched ever so slightly and began to look around, luminous blue eyes sweeping back and forth. She seemed to catch on to all the attention drifting over to her, and beamed even more brightly, smiling despite the rapidly shrinking bulge in her cheek, still chewing.
Hello!
She chirped through a mouthful of sugar fragments.
I'm Hecate.
The Imperial
What a play!
woman introduced herself, making to step forward towards Obi-Wan, but quickly pulled up short by her shoulder, the large man beside her releasing a slow sigh as his left hand held her in place. His right hand reached up to
Galaxy-wide you would. Shut up.
massage his temples.
I almost killed you too, by the way.
She added as she was reeled in, pointing at Kenobi, who raised his eyebrows at the statement, remembering all too clearly the Imperial person-shaped weapon he had crossed blades with earlier.
Heck, that's enough. Be silent.
The large man ordered gruffly, to the evident annoyance of the woman.
I'm not going to kill him right now.
Right now,
Besides,
yeah.
You said so yourself. We're here to talk.
She whined petulantly over her shoulder before looking back at Obi-Wan. The Jedi Master seemed surprised at first, before his bemusement whittled down to a weary smile.
Loath as I am to start this off by agreeing with you,
Obi-Wan began to say,
she's right. We are here to talk, so let us sit and talk.
The Jedi Master finished, stepping back and to the side, gesturing towards the meeting table. Ahsoka and Jocasta both moved to sit at the gesture, showing that the far side was for the Republic as they moved behind the table. The skull drones buzzed forward at that, several scanning various things all at once with grid patterns of hazy green light. The one-armed droid woman who took up one of the flanks of the Imperial wedge gave an ascending chime from her vocalizer, and the skull-faced man nodded.
Let it be so.
He acquiesced at last, moving forward, briskly followed by the rest of his delegation. Obi-Wan took his seat across from the man called Lazarus.
Well, no need for fanfare,
said the Jedi Master.
Let us begin.
You know why we are here.
Began the man called Saint Lazarus, leaning forward as he spoke, mechanical arm whining slightly.
Give us our soldiers, as you promised.
He demanded. Obi-Wan raised an eyebrow, keeping his back straight and his face composed, as he responded.
And we will, in time, but let us leave that for...
He began to say, but was cut off as a huge fist was slammed down onto the table. Ahsoka jerked, both her and Jocasta nearly rising to their feet at the Commissar's sudden act. Taking a breath to wind herself down, she focused on something else and had to subdue a smirk. Ahsoka had known it was a good idea to insist on a Durasteel table for this meeting. A large dent was left in the metal surface of it, branded there by the weight of the inactive weapon that had been pounded against it.
Not good enough, snapped the red-garbed woman whose entire right arm was enwreathed in a thick mechanical gauntlet.
We were told we would receive our people just for showing up to this farce.
Yeah.
She railed, face reddening as well.
And you will.
Ahsoka interjected appeasingly.
Why is Obi-Wan even running his mouth? Like, he didn't even set this up. I'm just saying, Joe Rogan, you are not Samus. You are not all around us. You are not the man beside us. You will not know my bones. Look out. You are not here, Joe Rogan. I appreciate it, though, bud.
Obi-Wan glanced
Of course
at
you
her,
would, Buck.
But she pressed on.
You will get them. All we ask is that you take them at the end of the talks, not the start. That way we can guarantee you hear us out.
She appealed. The woman opened her mouth to answer, but was forestalled by their leader's raised hand.
Then I hope you intend to keep these negotiations short.
Saint Lazarus growled, Ahsoka wincing slightly as he turned his skull face to regard her. The strange, quartz-infused skull stung her just to stare at it, and with his focus on her, it felt even worse, more intense.
I do imagine this first meeting will be rather rudimentary.
Obi-Wan cut in, drawing the focus back to himself.
How quickly...
I'm not hating on Kenobi. I'm just saying he didn't set this up. Ahsoka did. And I understand he's the negotiator, but God, this is like, yeah.
We cross those rudiments depends as much on all of you as on us.
He explained.
First, we should begin the negotiations. See how much we can agree on and how much we cannot. Either way, we will turn over the prisoners of war we have present at the conclusion of these talks.
The Jedi Master put forward, but found himself being denied before he could finish, this time by the shaking head of the red-robed droid woman.
Unacceptable. Surrender Nerva Sharp to us immediately.
The metal priestess droned, her skull droids buzzing more loudly around her, picking up speed and evident agitation.
If you do not acquiesce to this demand, the Adeptus Mechanicus will conclude these talks immediately.
Behind her, the bodyguard with the broken gas mask stepped forward, pistol in hand but raised up at the sky, at least for the moment. The clone troopers tightened the grips they had on their blaster rifles, tensions rapidly filling the air again. Obi-Wan remained calm, his gaze steady in spite of the threat.
These talks won't truly begin if all we receive from your side are demands. Nerva Sharp is one prisoner among many, I presume? She will be released to you with the others here. We'll ensure that she is in that group. Will that suffice?
The Jedi Master asked.
Negative. This is not acceptable.
The metallic priestess insisted.
It's the Mechanicus, man.
You will hand her over to us, now, as a gesture of goodwill.
She pressed. Obi-Wan grimaced at her reply, shaking his head.
Not exactly a gesture of goodwill if you compel it from us with...
He started.
Master.
Ahsoka suddenly said, leaning in his direction.
Nerva is a special case.
She began to explain.
She needs medical attention from one of her own order. Nerva was in a deteriorating condition the last time I checked.
She said, hoping Obi-Wan would understand. The Jedi studied her, raising an eyebrow before nodding and then turning back to the Imperial delegation.
All right. A gesture of goodwill, then.
He said with a sigh as he raised a hand to summon one of the clones forward.
Commander Rex, bring her here, if you would.
Do it,
the Jedi Master said. Rex nodded sharply and issued a few orders over his comms.
Do it!
Never losing sight of the Imperials before him, and shortly after, Nerva's Bacta tank was pushed forward and brought to the delegation. The droidified woman floated unconscious in the healing liquid, suspended by a harness, a breathing mask firmly secured to her face. Ahsoka didn't need to look at the vital monitors mounted onto the tank to know that the situation was dire.
Dragon of Dragon, I have changed the deal. Pray I do not do so again. Yes, I have altered the deal. Pray I do not alter it any further. This is true, Dragon. When Area reacts, this is gonna...
She could feel the machine priestess's life
Nah,
ebbing
I'm
away,
believing it, bud.
each heartbeat a teeny bit weaker than the last. The elder priestess of the delegation stepped forward, her skull drones buzzing around the tank, each scanning with their own sensors.
I need access to air.
The delegation's priestess droned, and with a nod from Ahsoka, the clones began draining the tank, opening it once it was empty. Nerva hung from the suspension harness, wires and sensors taped to her body in various places, feeding the monitors the data they needed in order to display her weakening vital signs.
This is really bad because they might assume that they've been experimenting on her.
The attending one-armed priestess reached down and began to methodically disconnect the wires, moving quickly but unhooking only a few before she was swiftly stopped. Standing up from his seat beside the gauntleted woman and walking forward with a natural tempo that did not raise notice quickly, Farnes approached the attending droid woman and raised his rifle, aiming it right at the back of the priestess's head.
Leave those on,
he ordered, voice hard. Sharp breaths were drawn,
Farnes?
hands tightening, nerves being tested, but not a one among them reacted as quickly as the single-armed bodyguard of the priestess, who immediately lowered his weapon right into the face of Farnes. Though sweat slicked his forehead, the guardsman did not flinch.
Step away,
Was the one-armed soldier's simple and only command.
I'm doing what I was charged to do.
Were the words Farnes shot back, eyes darting between the gun in his face, the impassive expression of the young man holding it, and the back of the tech priestess's head, which was still pressed lightly against the barrel of his imperial weapon.
Hold!
St. Lazarus ordered sharply, hands slamming down flat against the table. The young, one-eyed man holding Farnes at gunpoint said nothing, but neither did he pull the trigger, single eye unmoving.
I am the only one who can save air. Remove your weapon.
The priestess droned. The words brought a furious expression to Farnes's face, and he prodded her head more roughly with the barrel of his gun, prompting the bodyguard to do something similar back, though Farnes pointedly ignored him.
Then you better get started on saving her, Your Holiness.
The young guardsman almost growled, gritting his teeth.
Well, Farnes, you had some good guy points, but those servitor points are starting to rack up, my guy. Those servitor points are starting to rack up.
Heart beating heavy, but his aim remaining steady.
Because if Nerva dies, then you die.
The old abandoned weather station.
The Space Marines were menacingly silent, standing straight-backed and stiff, weapons in their hands as they glared, either with their bare eyes or through their helmets at their alien guests. The mercenary could tell that they were only barely constraining themselves from aiming at the chittering aliens and their massive, sand-traversing transport directly. Luckily, the Jawas were just not a big enough threat to force the issue, and, like it or not, they had few choices beyond dealing with little red-robed aliens if they wanted to get this station up and running that very same day. There was a sudden small explosion and a puff of smoke that then issued out from the interior of one of the buildings where the bulk of the machinery was housed. Bolter snapped up at the disturbance, aimed at the mouth of the station as three squeaking, chittering Jawas came running out, spinning and diverging chaotically as they yipped and coughed. They were followed out by a large space wolf, the darkly armored and most cybernetically enhanced one of the Space Marines, who himself was waving his hand in front of his face as if to clear a bad smell. He scowled all the while, his other hand clenched into a fist which he was shaking back and forth at them.
Damned smelt rats!
He bellowed after the fleeing aliens, who scattered and ran, bumping into each other as they formed haphazard zigzags, squealing and squeaking while they skittered back to their sand crawler.
Be a moving target!
Wiping soot from his face and cursing, the one known as the Iron Father took a deep breath.
Fett!
He boomed even more loudly, his voice echoing between the small clusters of buildings and out across the sands.
Okay.
Right here,
said the young mercenary, leaning just behind him and to his left, back against the same building the Marine had just exited. The massive, cybernetic man spun around to face him, sand scattering as he stomped over to the nonplussed clone. His
Space wolves on a desert planet. Good God.
shadow completely swallowed
Chicken,
up the
Ty
merc,
Bolt.
the Iron Father looming over him, one nostril flaring on his half-metal face.
I told you to let me fight him for you.
Fett managed to add casually from within his helmet just before the Astartes tirade began.
Those Xenos pests are selling us junk!
He bellowed, stabbing an accusatory finger in Boba's direction.
I warned you about that too. That's why you should have let me find the converter.
The clone shot back at the Space Marine, pushing himself off of the wall and fully facing the infuriated warrior.
You expect me to believe that some baseline runt like you can spot what we need better than I can?
Yes.
The Imperial spat.
No,
Yes.
but I know how to haggle with Jawas better than you do. Now you ought to avoid the runarounds and scams.
Fett retorted easily. The Marine threw his hands up into the air, the act so sudden and powerful that it sent a small wind out from him, making Boba flinch back.
They should have them all shot for even attempting to scam us. Then we can pick their part out of the ridiculous rusted transport.
The Iron Father ranted.
That's a bad idea.
Boba contended, emphasizing the word bad. The Marine rounded on him again.
Your sympathy for the Xenos is disturbing.
Yeah.
Whom do you really serve?
The Astartes challenged.
It isn't sympathy, it's just common sense, you hot big toaster.
The mercenary shot back.
Wrong faction for 40k. Wrong faction. That is a space wolf. You were the toaster insult is Mechanicus.
Half-baked toaster? Ye impertinent little whelp! I am Iron Father Yarvaster of the Volca Fenrica, and I will not!
The Marine almost roared, flesh side of his face flushing red.
Will not succeed in getting to Station Orkton if you keep arguing with me.
Fett finished for him. The clone thought he could hear the gears grinding in the man's head as he brought himself closer, scowling, lines on his organic face drawn deep and severe.
Rip off. Canonically, Jawas smell awful. Imagine how much worse it must be for the space wolf's enhanced sense of smell. This is actually the best part of the whole damned episode so far. The space wolves having to deal with Jawas. This is the gift that keeps on giving, my guys.
Me even one good reason then.
The space wolf roared into the young merc's face.
One good reason I shouldn't have all these up-jumped vermin strung up and disemboweled.
Better, I'll give you 3.
Okay.
Boba yelled
Thank
back
you,
at the
ripoff.
behemoth of a man, jutting a trio of fingers up ruefully in front of the Marine's eyes.
1. Jawas are tricky, pack ion weapons, and their sandcrawlers are mobile fortresses.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, a bunch of bulky 7 and 8 foot tall furheads and droid suits are not a good matchup for a fight inside of a 4 foot tall tunnel.
The space wolves would make it work. You underestimate how ridiculous they are.
Especially one crammed full of weapons and traps made to turn droids off. It's just a fight we do not need.
The mercenary vied, gesturing at the massive crawler in question.
You actually think we'd have any trouble coating the sand in their filthy...
Yarfestar began to retort, but Boba did not stop.
2. Their sandcrawlers are like mazes. It could take us hours or days to find what we need if we have to sort through it ourselves.
Yeah, that's true, I guess.
And that's if they even have what we want, and that's if they don't destroy it first.
The clone pointed out.
And 3, if you do kill them, good luck ever finding another Jawa to do business with you. They may be annoying, and dealing with them may be a price in time and patience that none of us want to pay,
but that should only clue you into how necessary they are on Tatooine.
You're not even kidding. The Dark Angels would really like Jawas. It would remind them of home.
These Xenos, as you call them, are everywhere, trading in everything. And they have a nasty habit of showing up right when you have no other options left. You know, kind of like right now.
The Marine's face lined deeply, his lips pulling back to show elongated fangs, his fists clenching, servos squealing with the effort. Fett stared him down, unflinching in the face of the giant man. That is, until that man swung one of those massive metal fists in his direction.
Kark!
He shouted, trying to throw himself back against the sand, but his reflex to do so came almost 8 picoseconds too late. The crack was audible for some distance across the windswept expanse, echoing out and driving several horned geckos beneath the sand. Boba's body fell back against the yielding ground, his eyes wide as his brain tried to reconcile the speed of the huge man with his bulk. As with most baseline brains, it failed to do so, and left Boba with only an eerie, uncanny fear in its wake. The Iron Father had buried his arm almost up to his elbow in the side of the building where Boba had been leaning before. The impact cracking like a whip as the sound barrier broke against the Space Marine's ceramite fist. Still scowling deeply, the Iron Father of the local Space Wolves ripped his arm out of the wall, shaking it off and turning around.
You got one chance, whelp.
The Marine growled over his shoulder.
Come back with that right converter, or next time I see you, I'll throttle you through this wall.
He promised coldly before walking back into the smoking room and beginning to resume his work.
Boba Fett just learned that Grandpa doesn't fuck around.
Boba, chest rising and falling heavily in the sudden gout of adrenaline that filled him, nodded from the ground.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
He said breathlessly to the Marine's back, remaining on the ground for almost a minute after. He winced then as something grabbed him from behind and yanked him up by the collar of his armor.
You done it now.
Yannick said to the squirming clone as he set him back down on his feet with his one arm, grinning and almost laughing as he spoke.
Yeah? Well, at least I get to do this my way now.
The flustered Fett said, shoving Yannick's arm away and dusting himself off rapidly.
Don't be angry now, whelp.
Yannick said with a laugh as he backed off. Felagi, the six-limbed wolf, growling at Boba as it wove between Yannick's legs.
I think the Iron Father is taking a liking to you.
He added with a loud laugh as Fett began to make his way towards the sandcrawler.
Nice.
Yannick and Felagi following close behind.
Ah. My God, guys. Yes, Dragon and Dragon, do not mess around with Space Marines or you will find out. Yeah, Boba is still a kid at this point. He is probably, judging by everything, he's probably about 13 years old. He's probably about 13 years old. Okay, so, what did we learn? Oh, thank you, Warden. Fan uploaded, guys, if you didn't know. So what did we learn today? What did we find out? Number one, Farnes has definitely taken a hit to the head, but he is worried about his toaster girlfriend dying, being accused of tech heresy. 1313 is still the boy. He is still your boy. Lazarus doesn't have time for any of Obi-Wan's shenanigans. And they definitely it's just a continuous thing. You got to read the room, bros. The Republic is not reading the room properly here. But maybe there's going to be something okay happening. I'm just saying. Hobbit. So with Farnes holding the Megos at gunpoint, I assume he thought they might kill Nerva on the spot as she didn't use traditional Mechanicus tradition or authority to pilot the Knight. That's possible, Hobbit. That's possible, but they would have no way to know that. All they would know is that she piloted the Knight. They might not even have known that, to be honest with you. They might not know, but she is a priestess. She is still a priestess of the Mechanicus. So, I'm wondering, God, there's too much to figure out right now. There's too much to figure out right now with this. But the big one for me is Coruscant. The fact that there are Space Marines near Coruscant. Galaxy-wide, which 40k faction would you want to see? I personally want to see the Tau get destroyed, since the Tau are my most hated faction, and are unique around other 40k groups as they should have been wiped out a long time ago. Thank you, Galaxy. I appreciate that. Try harder. Anyhow, thank you, Galaxy. I appreciate that. Still try harder. But, the sheer fact of the matter is, Coruscant's in a lot of... Coruscant's screwed, man. The entire fleet is out of orbit. The question is, are they just going to show up and just start dropping ordnance or what? Fan, only 30 messages in Discord this time letting me know that you uploaded. Only 30. But it really depends on the Space Marines that are going to be in orbit right now. This is going to be a lot. This is not going to be the battle that's on the planet. The Space Marines are not there to mess around. It is going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly fast. The Imperial fleet attacking Coruscant will likely hold it hostage and take some political prisoners while dismantling Coruscant's military instructors with their bombardment. Though I don't even know what to say about that. It's going to depend on the chapter Space Marines is going to be over it. It depends on how they are as a group. Because right now, they're not dealing with individual planets. They're dealing with an empire. To their viewpoint, they're dealing with an empire. And they could take a very, very dynamic stance here and just be like, okay, we are at their capital, which is undefended. We can wipe out their capital in a single shot. They could decide to wipe out Coruscant, and there's nobody that can stop them at this point. They might not even set foot on Coruscant. Fett could very well become a Space Marine. Fett as a Space Wolf, that's a little bit disturbing, okay? They can't destroy it. Padme and the kids are there. Padme and the kids are not there. Padme and the kids are off planet right now. Yeah, the Skywatch are making it there. Yeah, the Skywatch are going to be the ones that are there. If it was the Razors will be trying the wonderful delicacies. I'm just saying. Axiom is practice. Okay, Coruscant is the champion game. It could be the Holy Terra. I don't know, dude. I just don't know. It is actually it's kind of a thing right now, from what I'm seeing. There could be so many problems. Now there's definitely... Oh, Padme is still there? I did not know Padme is still there. Okay, so the chances of Padme getting killed are limited. It would make Anakin lose his mind. I would say that. It's got a planetary shield and a huge number of Golan defense stations. That's not going to help, Locke. That's not going to help. She wanted to leave with the presidency. I thought that she was off planet. I think I might be, conflicting two things at the same time. It probably is that. Holding a hostage would be better while selectively destroying different facilities. Political prisoners would be valuable and gain strategic insight. They literally have the entirety of the Senate there. It's all there. besides certain key members that are, off-world right now. Palpatine himself is not there. He's trying to get himself into Apprentice. I'm just saying. Recovering from what Palpatine was doing. Huron Blackheart show. Dude, don't even go there. That's a hideous idea. Skywatch is over Coruscant. The talks are not going well. I will say that. I will say that without hesitation. Granted, at least in this granted, I expect at least one person to die, and nobody's dead yet. Somebody's almost dead, but still. Warpugs. Excellent chat for fans here. Yoda's still on Coruscant. Now, that is going to be the big question. That's going to be the big question here, okay? Night Lords on Coruscant would be funny. Yes, it would, Night. It would be funny. Well, here's the thing, Dragon. If the Senate all dies, then Palpatine is now the only senator left, and he is by de facto the Senate. I'm just saying. You see Fett as a Raven Guard? Alright. If they do take prisoners, and Palpatine's regime would take a huge blow. Yep. His administrative allies would be taken by the Skywatch and interrogated. Yep. Yoda took a big hit saving Palpatine. That's true as well. But it depends on if we have regular Yoda versus Seals or good Yoda. Because... Anakin is in charge of the Grand Army of the Republic, but he is not there right now. He is not there. Any Primarchs active? No, not here. Guys, Fan showed up right here at the end. It's good to see him. Mon Mothma, Bale would probably end up surviving. That, yes, Billy Grantham, that would be true. Skywatch wouldn't need to interrogate them because they could just eat their brains. Dude, that's the Razors. That's what they would do. Slap the grot, yes. Crack, I need in. Anyhow. What do I think is happening with Maul, with Grievous? This is the thing. All of this, I can't say what's happening with Maul flat out. I know where Maul might be during this time. But Grievous, on the other hand, that's a whole separate bag right now. Grievous is an Avengers end-level game threat. I'm just saying. No, Hobbit, the storylines are good. But man, the Skywatch arriving at Coruscant is something I've been waiting on for some time. That is something I've been waiting on for quite a while. But even more is the talks that are happening between these two, between the Imperium and the Republic on this planet. Now, I was not a fan of Obi-Wan leading the talks, but it's not because I don't like Obi-Wan, it's because, oh my god, everybody's been screwing up. Like, it's been the worst first contact period. It's been the worst opening dialogue period because you're simply speaking their damned language, okay? Coruscant is not a pushover to 40K. No, it's not. Old man doing. It's not. Would love to see a Jedi Ultramarine? Of course you would, Black Lorgar, because you're a heretic. All right, that's just, we know this. Now, what do I expect out of the next little bit here? I expect a feeling of dread that is going to happen when they realize that Coruscant is undefended against currently undefended against the Imperium. As far as the talks go, I don't really know how this is going to go, because you have the Imperium, which expects bad things to happen, versus the Republic, who so far has just, for them to be as empathetic as they have been so far to pretty much everybody else, it's just strange. It's strange to me that they don't realize the tact, because they have to. There's going to be a certain kind of tact they have to take, but they're still negotiating with the Imperium like the Imperium is from their galaxy, which is why I was sitting there saying, God will let Ahsoka take the lead on this one, because she's the only one that seems to understand what the hell is going on right now. It wouldn't surprise me, Jack. It would not surprise me, Jack Stefan. It would not surprise me at all. Yeah, old man Dewey, the Republic did everything right as it stands for itself, but they're not dealing with someone from their own galaxy. And that's something that Ahsoka found out when she started talking to Farnish, or really Farnish started talking to her. And it's something they should be understanding when they're feeling the sensations coming off of the prisoners of war that they themselves have taken. There is a clear, and Fan even put it in the story, that they are clearly not expecting anything good to happen right now. They're clearly expecting bad things to happen right now. They're clearly anticipating the worst. Yeah, there's true dragons. And Obi-Wan sitting there making all these quips and stuff like that. And yeah, she is an official part of the Jedi Order or the Republican military, and she's 16 or so. But she's the only one using her damn skull at this point in my mind. She's the only one using her brain. Yeah. Guys, Fan uploaded. We have witnessed. And Farnham, my boy, please, don't get yourself killed. Don't get yourself killed. Guys, tomorrow night is Shenanigans. We're going to meet up beside the fire. Yeah, with her vile Xenos brain, but she's considered abhuman. I do remember that the Servo Skull considers her an abhuman. If I'm right about that. Yeah. And she's passable, I guess. Yeah, the death flags you mentioned, Dragon. I'm worried about Ahsoka. I'm very worried about Ahsoka. Exactly. The Skywatch wouldn't know where to start looking on Coruscant. Yeah, that is very true. Give me a Zinch corrupted Yoda. Just why, Lord Gar? Why? Are you free yet? No, Galaxy Wide. You're forever in jail. Okay. Shenanigans tomorrow night, everybody. God. The last time I checked something out from Fan was before I even was here. And now I'm here. We will see how far that gets her with the delegates. The problem that I'm seeing, the problem I'm seeing the Republic having right now is they're dealing with something that they don't know they have not tried. Now, granted, they are trying now. They're trying to talk to them now. But the problem that Obi-Wan and the rest of them are having is the fact that they simply do not understand what they're dealing with. Guys, I'm going to head out from here. I will catch you guys next time. And I'll see you tomorrow for Shenanigans. Until then, Warpugs, you have a good night.